Hi everyone, it's Adam from Docs to Code and Every Developer, and I'm going to give you an overview of Twilio's developer experience. Here we are on the Twilio homepage, and you can see a description of what Twilio does. It says APIs right here. I know as a developer this is for me. There's also a Docs and Help section, so I can jump straight to that if I want. And you can see the big Get a Free API Key button right there. That's probably where I want to go, but let's take a look at what else they have for us. As we scroll down, we can see they have SDKs, helper libraries across a bunch of popular languages. Below that, we can see that they're used by big names, not just developers, so they seem solid. We've got some overview of their of the Twilio conference called Signal. And that's probably not that useful for first-time visitors, but maybe someone who knows Twilio well, they can go back to that and see kind of what's new. Now we have a little bit more of an overview of what Twilio is, and here they've designated some of the most common areas, and we can dive into those specifically. So if it was messaging that we were interested in, we could get just at that and be able to see how we could use Twilio. And now this gets to my favorite part, which is the use cases. So a lot of times API providers don't want to hold back the creativity of developers, so they don't want to tell them what to build. Well, use cases are what ignite that creativity. You get an idea of how something is used, and then from there you can build on top of it. So use cases are really important, and Twilio does a great job here of putting them front and center. We can't wait to see what you build. It's a little bit of a developer cliche, but really speaks to how connected they are to developers. So let's zip back up to the top and click that big red button and see what it's like to start using Twilio. So Twilio is actually asking for a lot of information here. It's a longer form than you might see for a simple sign up. But interestingly, you can submit the form and you can see there what's required. So there's a lot of this that is not actually required. So let's put in just the required information and see how we can get started using Twilio. So now they're asking for my telephone number. Normally, I would jump away at this point, but Twilio is a phone API, and they're dog fooding here, so I kind of give them a pass, and I go ahead and type in my number for them. And just like that, I get a verification code. And now I'm in. So Twilio has this message about all their products. And actually, as we scroll down, we can see that there's quite a bit that's involved in Twilio. And that's one of the challenges they have, is communicating all of those various products as they grow. So we want to just dive into one of them here. Let's look at the programmable SMS. So being able to send an SMS with code sounds pretty cool. So they have a Get Started highlighted, also available there, tutorials, and they remind me that yes, this does cost some money. You can see the pricing right here. But let's dive in to getting started and see what it takes. So this next part has code. So if that's not your thing, you can skip ahead to about the 10.5-minute mark. And from there, we'll pick up with the rest of Twilio's developer experience. So the first thing they want is to get me a phone number. They suggest one in my same area code, which is really useful. I'll just go with the one they chose. And now they're ready to have me send a test message, which is pretty cool. So I can type in the message that I want to send right in here. I'm being super creative. And this show request code is pretty cool. So here I can see what it looks like to send my message with curl and with other languages. Unfortunately, the information from the form above doesn't get copied into the code, so I can't simply just copy and paste to put it in. So let's do this test here just to see what it's like. And I get a message, and the message reminds me that I'm using a trial account, and I can see also in the upper right, in yellow, that it reminds me I have a trial account, gives me the option to upgrade. Here they're telling me about processing incoming messages, which is pretty cool that can be done, but I still want to see sending the SMS through code. So I'm going to go back up to that step. So I see here that they have a Python helper library. So I'm gonna click that and see what that is. It takes me to GitHub, and as I scroll through quickly here, I see, aha, I can just install it with pip. So with that done, I'm ready to go back and get that code. Paste that in here. Got to clean it up a little bit. And now need to put in all of these things with brackets. I need to find the pieces of data to put in there. So it's actually a little bit tough to get to this, but it's in my account settings, and we have live credentials are what we want to use here. And it might seem like, since we're testing it out, that we'd use test credentials, but you can actually, the Learn About Test Credentials link there helps explain it a little bit better. It wouldn't give me access to the number that we just created, which is, of course, what we need to use to text from. So we'll get the live credentials and the auth token and get those into the code. And of course, you want to not share that auth token. Put in my number again. You can, when a trial account, you can only send to verified numbers. So that's the only number I have verified. And then going back and finding this from number, it sure would be useful if I could copy and paste that, but instead I have to memorize it and put it in there. And then again, coming up with a message to actually test. Let's get really creative. Yeah, there we are. And now I'm just going to run this straight from the command line, and no response actually is a good thing. And my phone just got a buzz with the message. If there was an error, if I used bad credentials or something else happened, because there's no error checking in that, it would just throw me out here. So the fact that we got nothing is actually a good thing. The fact that it sent a text to my phone is pretty amazing. And that is taking one Twilio API from docs to code. So now let's look at what else does Twilio provide for developers. You can see that under docs there are some quick starts, which are actually a lot like what we just did. And there's also tutorials and helper libraries. We're going to check out these tutorials now. Tutorials, they're fairly new as a concept, at least like this for Twilio. So here, let's look at the appointment reminders example using Python with Flask. This is an entire application. All of these are the files that you need for that application. You can go through each step, and like a normal tutorial, it does walk you through step by step. And it shows all of the code and the important code for that piece as it does it. So really cool. This is a tutorial and kind of a sample app in one, and Twilio does a good job showing that off. So next, let's check out the helper libraries, or SDKs. Remember, these were linked from the home page as well. So these are front and center for developers. They've been set up to use the Twilio API. They're the most popular languages. You look into each individual one and it shows you how you get started with that particular one. And as we wrap up, I want to just spend a tiny bit of time in the API reference. Could probably do a whole video on that. But again, I just want to point out how many different products Twilio has and that they all have to be discoverable within here. So since we've used the SMS, let's go ahead and look at the API reference for that. So again, we can switch between languages, which is really useful for being able to see Twilio through the language that you use most. Back in the dashboard, we see some other really useful Twilio features like the logs. So we can go and we could see the messages that we actually sent via the API. And then also, since we're charged by usage, might as well show our usage. And right from the dashboard, you can get the help you need from Twilio support as well. So that's front and center. You can easily figure out where it is, which is, of course, not the case for every API. So the final things I want to show are not necessarily what you'd always consider to be part of developer experience. And they're actually kind of tough to find in the console, but here you can see that it is in the main navigation, and that is the status of the Twilio API. And they drill down by product and show you how it's doing. And then something, again, you also wouldn't consider to be developer experience, but is actually really, really important, is looking at the blog. How often has it been updated? Is it updated with technical pieces, like this tutorial to create a Slack bot for Father's Day? Or is it less technical pieces? Is it a mix of case studies like this and, again, real technical sort of content, which for a developer-focused company, you would want to be able to see? And I would guess that Twilio gets quite a bit of its traffic from that developer content as well, because they know that's their audience. That's why this homepage has APIs right on it. And that is perhaps the biggest thing that we can take away from Twilio, that laser focus on developers. Thanks for watching this overview of Twilio's developer experience. You can find more at docstocode.com.